One.
Okay, we are back with video 2 of the Markdown Previewer, how I got it in React, my first React app, free code camp, Chromebook, beginners coding, and so forth. So basically what I did was I went into, as I said before, I went into this dude's, the example app, which, I mean, it's definitely functions cool. Gets the job done. Would I set it up like this? Probably not. But color wise and just like up and down like that, it's all good though. Dude knows more about React than I do, that's for sure. But the beauty of it is you get to make it your own way. So you go into guy's code, and I've been studying React a little bit. Like, I wouldn't recommend doing this if you have never done any looking into what, like, at least done the courses on the beta version of Free Code Camp to have some concept of how React works. But I'm not going to really get into that. I'm just going to assume that if you're watching this, you have some knowledge of it. But so basically, the big thing behind this app is you have to add besides React and React DOM, you've got to, we can get there through here. What you've got to do in your settings here, if you're doing it on CodePen, I've got React DOM, I've got the stupid, I'm getting rid of that. I'm getting rid of the tester. That thing's annoying me. It already passes all the tests, so that thing's getting bye-bye. You've got to get marked.min.js or mark.js. And basically all that is it's a library or whatever for JavaScript that you input a string and it interprets it as Markdown. So, and then it spits out on the other side, it spits out the Markdown version. So you're going to need that for the challenge. You're not expected to programmatically do all the Markdown stuff in JavaScript on your own, although I guess you could, but it would be a real pain in the butt to program that. I mean, you could look inside the Markdown and see exactly what's in that file to get an idea of what it takes. And I didn't even want to bother doing that, but I know it's a lot of JavaScript. So you get that, and basically it has a bunch of default options, but the only one I shifted from is breaks, and you set that to true. And what that does is when someone hits enter, it puts in a carriage return instead of not doing that, I guess. So I mean that's key to have for multi-line stuff. And if you go to their thing, their GitHub page or whatever in the repo, there's a lot of stuff, but it tells you what each thing does. All the options are right here. Renderer, GitHub flavor, Markdown, you can tables or not, breaks or not, and then a bunch of stuff. So sanitize, we're keeping sanitize false. We could turn it to true, but it's kind of cooler. With sanitize is what basically being false means that you can enter an HTML code, which does leave you liable to things like cross-scripting attacks and stuff like that. But it's much cooler to have it on, in my opinion. And I'll show you why in a second. But anyway, so basically, the first thing I did was put the breaks to true, so you can do enter, and then define the new marked renderer. That's all you just have to initialize the marked renderer. And then on links, in order to make links work, we have to write this function of href title and text, and it's going to return this string. And you're using the literals right here and entering in like that with the target blank. That way, the links will open up a new page. Like if you have it on the default, which is self, I believe, when you click a link inside of the CodePen, it just gives you a blank screen. So this way it's automatically blank, so it automatically opens that new tab, which you need. And then this is simple. All you need to do is declare your app component with its constructor. And I went with what this guy did. So he went with the state markdown as the placeholder, which is a constant that you make later. And then the app has, this is how you bind it. I didn't use an arrow function, so you have to do this.handle change, this.handle change, bind this. So you need to bind this word, otherwise this function won't work. So all this is saying is on change, the state is getting changed to whatever's in the text area, which is the state of Markdown is going to be whatever the value is basically of the whole text area. And then in the render, I changed the render up a little bit. Since I'm using Foundation as a framework, you can actually put in when you're declaring your class names versus class. It's just all it's saying is your class. I put in some Foundation classes. So on a medium screen, they'll be next to each other, but on a cell phone or a mobile, they'll be stacked on top of each other, just for better presentation on mobile. So like right there, that takes care of like the mobile, what do they call it? Responsive web design or whatever. Pain in the ass web design was more like it, but that takes care of that right there. And then you got your editor component where the markdown is this.state.markdown, because you're declaring all this in the app. So this is referring to the app's state, and this.handle change is your on change for the editor, and the preview is just that. The preview is just the markdown. No change in there. And then you just declare, now you're declaring editor. You're declaring editor as a stateless functional component within the wrap. So you're saying that's a text area, and you're giving that value, a props of value, which is going to be props.markdown. On change is props.onChange. Because you remember you're passing it the props right here. You're passing it the props. Here. So basically you're passing it the props here, okay, props.markdown, which is really this.state.markdown of app, which is really this.state markdown is the placeholder. So you can see it's funky, but it's a kind of chain reaction that goes from child to parent in React. It takes a little bit of getting used to wrap your head around it. And the same with the on change is the props.on change, but up in where we declared the editor, we've given it a prop here of this.handle change, which goes back up to here's handle change, which is it sets the state of markdown to the target, to the value. So you can see how it's like a chain reaction. And then this was the funky part that I had to look up what this was. Dangerously set HTML is here in your definition of your preview component with a key of HTML, with a key of like dash or like line HTML. And this is where you're actually calling the marked method in the renderer right here. This is because you can pass HTML through, and I'll continue to explain all this in the next video.